Hi everyone, welcome back to Hip Hop Press. In a shocking announcement that has left fans completely stunned, Kyle Richards has reportedly confirmed that she is walking away from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. After 14 seasons, countless emotional moments, explosive arguments, and one of the longest journeys in the franchise, Kyle is allegedly saying she has reached her limit. In an emotional video shared just hours ago, Kyle reportedly looked directly into the camera with tears in her eyes and delivered a message that sent shockwaves through the Bravo fanbase. She allegedly said that after everything that happened, after the reunion, and after the devastating revelation involving Dorit and Mauricio, she simply couldn't continue putting herself through that kind of pain in front of millions of viewers. According to the storyline circulating online, the alleged revelation that Dorit was carrying Mauricio's child became the breaking point. For Kyle, this wasn't just another reality TV storyline. It represented years of marriage, loyalty, family memories, and everything she believed she had built with Mauricio suddenly collapsing in front of the cameras. But here's where things get even more dramatic. According to the claims surrounding the story, Kyle's decision to leave isn't solely about the alleged pregnancy. Insiders supposedly believe there is another layer to the situation, something happening behind the scenes that could completely change how fans view the franchise. And if Kyle really does decide to reveal everything she knows before walking away, the fallout could be enormous. For 14 seasons, Kyle Richards has been one of the central figures of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She has been there through the arguments, friendships, family feuds, marriages, separations, emotional breakdowns, and some of the franchise's most unforgettable moments. Fans watched her open up about her personal life, while cameras followed nearly every major chapter of her journey. For years, she also stood beside Mauricio Umansky as their relationship became one of the show's defining storylines. She defended their marriage through rumors, speculation, and relentless public scrutiny. She supported his business ambitions. She helped turn their family life into one of the most recognizable stories on Bravo. And when their marriage began falling apart, viewers watched Kyle struggle with the possibility that the relationship she had spent decades protecting might no longer be reparable. But according to the allegations in the storyline, the cracks had appeared long before the public fully understood what was happening. The marriage was reportedly already suffering from emotional distance. Kyle was allegedly trying to hold the family together while Mauricio had become increasingly detached. The constant attention, reality TV pressure, relationship rumors, and years of public scrutiny had supposedly taken an enormous toll on both of them. At the same time, Kyle's relationship with Dorit Kemsley had reportedly become increasingly tense. What once looked like ordinary housewives friction allegedly developed into a much deeper personal conflict. The two women had traded subtle digs, disagreements, and uncomfortable moments for years. But according to the claims being circulated, Kyle never completely trusted Dorit. Dorit, meanwhile, was allegedly frustrated by what she perceived as Kyle's controlling behavior and influence within the group. Then came the claim that changed the entire story. According to the allegations, Dorit and Mauricio had supposedly been involved in a secret relationship for an extended period of time. If that were ever established as fact, it would completely transform the way viewers interpret years of interactions between Kyle, Dorit, and Mauricio. The most explosive part of the storyline is the alleged pregnancy. According to the narrative being circulated, the shocking revelation supposedly emerged during the season 14 reunion, where Kyle was allegedly confronted with the claim that Dorit was pregnant and that Mauricio was the father. That moment, according to the story, completely shattered Kyle. After decades of marriage, years of defending Mauricio, and countless attempts to protect their family image, she was suddenly being confronted with the ultimate betrayal involving someone she already considered a rival. And that is allegedly what pushed Kyle to the edge. But before accepting any of these claims as fact, there is one crucial distinction viewers need to remember: the pregnancy, paternity, secret affair, and departure claims described here would need credible confirmation from the people involved or reliable reporting. Reality television thrives on dramatic storylines, and social media can transform speculation into apparent fact incredibly quickly. So the real question isn't simply whether Kyle is leaving. The bigger question is what, if anything, actually happened behind the scenes, and what will Kyle say if she decides to tell her side of the story. According to multiple people allegedly close to Kyle, she reportedly told producers immediately after the reunion that she was seriously considering walking away from the show for good. The combination of public humiliation, the alleged pregnancy controversy, broken friendships, relentless media attention, and the feeling that her personal pain had become the show's biggest storyline reportedly pushed her to a breaking point. But if the claims circulating online are accurate, Kyle's potential exit may be about much more than one shocking allegation. There may be another story developing behind the scenes, one that could become even bigger if Kyle decides to speak openly before leaving. And that is what makes the reunion storyline so explosive. What was supposed to be another dramatic Housewives reunion allegedly turned into a moment that completely changed the atmosphere surrounding Kyle's future on the show. According to the story being circulated, the confrontation reached its most intense point when Andy Cohen allegedly presented Dorit with claims involving a pregnancy and Mauricio. The room supposedly went silent. Dorit was reportedly overwhelmed, while PK appeared stunned by the allegation. And Kyle, sitting nearby, was allegedly unable to process what she was hearing. The emotional reaction described in these accounts was immediate, with Kyle reportedly breaking down as the implications of the accusation sank in. But the story didn't stop there. The allegations claim that messages, hotel records, and an alleged voice recording were brought into the discussion, supposedly creating an even more dramatic confrontation. One alleged recording supposedly contained a conversation about the pregnancy and how the situation would be handled. Kyle was reportedly devastated by what she believed she was hearing. She allegedly confronted Dorit emotionally, questioning how someone she once considered a friend could become connected to such a painful situation. Dorit, according to the same storyline, struggled to respond as the confrontation intensified. PK was reportedly equally stunned by the allegations and eventually walked away from the situation rather than continue the argument. Then came another major twist. Mauricio allegedly responded publicly and denied being the father. Rather than accepting the allegation, he reportedly demanded that any paternity claim be settled through legitimate DNA testing. His alleged response immediately divided viewers. Some people interpreted the denial as proof that the entire story was being exaggerated. Others believed his reaction raised even more questions. And Kyle was reportedly left caught in the middle. For someone who had spent decades protecting her family image, suddenly watching her private life become the center of a public spectacle would have been devastating. But the internet reaction was reportedly even bigger. Clips from the reunion began spreading across social media, with viewers dissecting every expression, every pause, and every reaction. The alleged confrontation became the kind of reality TV moment that instantly generates thousands of theories. And then came the biggest claim of all. According to people allegedly familiar with the situation, Kyle reportedly became overwhelmed backstage and told producers that she could no longer continue. After giving the franchise 14 seasons of her personal life, her family struggles, her marriage problems, and some of her most vulnerable moments, she allegedly reached a point where she felt there was nothing left to sacrifice. One supposed insider claimed Kyle expressed the feeling that the show had taken too much from her. Whether that exact conversation happened remains unclear, but the storyline has fueled massive speculation about her future. And now another allegation is adding fuel to the fire. Reports circulating online claim that PK may have been gathering information for an extended period and could potentially have additional material connected to the controversy. Some versions of the story even claim that a video exists showing Mauricio and Dorit allegedly discussing the situation privately. But this is exactly where viewers need to slow down. A dramatic claim spreading across social media isn't automatically evidence. Until an alleged recording, document, or legal filing is independently established, it should be treated as part of the circulating storyline, not as confirmed fact. Still, the speculation has created one enormous question. What happens if Kyle actually decides to tell her entire side of the story? Because if she walks away from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, she would no longer have the same reason to protect the show's narrative. She could potentially discuss her experiences on her own terms. She could explain what she believes happened inside her marriage. She could address the friendships that fell apart. And she could finally reveal why she believes the situation became impossible to continue. That possibility alone has fans watching every move. For years, Kyle has been one of the defining faces of Beverly Hills. If she really is preparing to leave after 14 seasons, this wouldn't simply be another cast change. It would mark the end of one of the longest chapters in the franchise. But the biggest question remains unanswered. Was this truly the final straw for Kyle? Or is there another revelation waiting behind the scenes that could completely change everything? Before she leaves, a video that insiders claim could reveal exactly how production allegedly handled the most explosive moments of the season. And if even part of those claims turns out to be accurate, Bravo could be facing a crisis far bigger than one cast member walking away. Because Kyle wouldn't simply be talking about her marriage. She could allegedly discuss what happened behind the cameras, how certain storylines were developed, which conversations were encouraged by producers, and whether private family pain was deliberately turned into television drama. That possibility has reportedly made executives extremely nervous. For years, reality television has operated on one basic principle. The cameras capture the drama, the audience reacts, and the cast moves on. But what happens when a longtime cast member decides to explain what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? That's where this story becomes much more complicated. If Kyle actually releases a documentary-style project, viewers could finally hear her version of events without Andy Cohen sitting across from her, without another cast member interrupting, and without producers deciding which emotional moments make the final episode. She would control the narrative. And that may be the one thing the network fears most. The alleged letter to Bravo has only intensified those concerns. According to the claims circulating online, Kyle supposedly accused production of turning deeply personal experiences into ratings material. She allegedly argued that her marriage problems were repeatedly brought back into conversations even when she was emotionally exhausted. She also allegedly questioned whether certain cast members were encouraged to confront her because producers knew those confrontations would generate stronger television. Again, none of those alleged claims should be treated as established fact without the actual letter or reliable confirmation. But the speculation alone has created a huge conversation among Housewives viewers. And there is another reason this situation has become so explosive. Kyle isn't just another cast member. She has been part of Beverly Hills from the beginning. She has watched friendships form and collapse. She has seen cast members arrive, become fan favorites, disappear, and sometimes return years later. She has experienced marriages, family conflicts, business changes, emotional breakdowns, and personal reinventions while cameras followed almost every step. That gives her something most departing reality stars don't have. A memory of the entire machine. She knows how the show works. She knows how reunions are structured. She knows how storylines develop. And she knows exactly what it feels like to have cameras waiting during the worst moments of your life. That's why a potential exit interview from Kyle would be so valuable to viewers and potentially so uncomfortable for the network. Imagine her sitting down without the usual Housewives format and simply explaining what she believes happened. No reunion couch. No dramatic music. No cast members shouting across the stage. Just Kyle talking. That alone could become one of the biggest reality TV stories of the year. Meanwhile, the alleged fallout among the cast is creating another layer of uncertainty. If other longtime personalities genuinely started questioning their futures because of Kyle's departure, Bravo would have to consider whether the franchise could maintain its identity without several of its established personalities. That's the domino effect everyone keeps talking about. One departure can be managed. 2 or 3 major exits can force a complete rebuild. And a complete rebuild can change the entire personality of a franchise. That's what happened to other reality shows when audiences suddenly felt that the original chemistry was gone. Beverly Hills has always depended on a very specific combination of wealth, family connections, friendship drama, luxury, and long-running personal history. Remove too many of those familiar faces, and suddenly it isn't the same show. That's why fans aren't only asking, is Kyle really leaving? They're asking, what happens to Beverly Hills if she does? And then there's Mauricio. His name remains at the center of the controversy, but his position is completely different from Kyle's. Kyle can potentially walk away from the cameras. Mauricio still has his business reputation to consider. Every new allegation, every viral clip, and every rumor surrounding the relationship potentially creates another public relations problem. And if Kyle actually speaks publicly about their marriage in greater detail, the attention could become impossible to control. That's why the next few weeks could be critical. But there's one thing viewers should remember. Reality television thrives on dramatic predictions. Every season brings claims that someone is quitting, someone is being fired, someone has secret footage, or someone is about to expose everything. Sometimes those predictions become reality. Sometimes they disappear completely. So the smartest approach is to separate what has actually been said publicly from what anonymous accounts are claiming online. Because the difference between those two things can be enormous. Still, one undeniable fact remains. Kyle's relationship with the franchise appears to be under intense scrutiny. And after years of allowing cameras into her personal life, fans are now wondering whether she's finally decided that enough is enough. If she leaves, it could represent the end of an era. If she stays, she may have to return to a show where her personal life has become one of its biggest storylines. And if she releases the alleged documentary before making that decision, that could change the entire conversation. Because once a reality star controls her own footage, her own words, and her own timeline, the network loses something incredibly valuable: control of the story. And that is why everyone is watching Kyle Richards right now. Not just to see whether she walks away, but to see what she says before she does. Years of alleged manipulation by producers and cast members are now being dragged into the spotlight, and the question everyone keeps asking is painfully simple. If Kyle really walks away and releases everything she claims to have, will there even be a recognizable Real Housewives of Beverly Hills left? But just when viewers thought Kyle's rumored departure was already the biggest Bravo bombshell of the year, another alleged revelation sent the entire storyline into overdrive. According to the claims circulating online, Kyle appeared in a pre-recorded video and spoke directly to the audience about why she had finally reached her limit. This time, there was no reunion stage. No cast members sitting beside her. No Andy Cohen asking questions. Just Kyle, speaking directly into a camera. And according to the storyline being circulated, her message was brutally direct. She allegedly said she wasn't simply leaving the show, she was finished protecting people who had benefited from her silence. After years of allowing cameras into her marriage, family life, friendships, and most painful moments, she allegedly claimed that her private struggles had repeatedly been turned into entertainment. She reportedly questioned whether producers had known more about the alleged controversy than viewers realized and whether certain revelations were deliberately saved for maximum dramatic impact. But the biggest claim came next. According to the circulating narrative, Kyle allegedly revealed that she had been working privately on a documentary project for months. If true, that would completely change the situation. Because a documentary controlled by Kyle would give her something she rarely had during her years on reality television: complete control over her own story. The claims suggest that the project could allegedly include behind-the-scenes material, personal recordings, production conversations, and messages that Kyle believes demonstrate how certain storylines were developed. But once again, those claims need to be treated carefully. There has been no reliable confirmation establishing that such a documentary contains the specific material being described online. And allegations about private recordings or messages should not be treated as proven simply because they are circulating widely. Still, the possibility has captured viewers' attention because of one obvious question. What happens when the person who lived through the storyline decides to tell the story without the network controlling the edit? That is where the potential conflict becomes enormous. Kyle's entire reality TV career has been built around letting viewers watch her life unfold. They watched her marriage. They watched family disagreements. They watched friendships collapse. They watched her struggle emotionally. And they watched her repeatedly try to explain herself while millions of people judged every decision she made. If she now possesses hours of material that never aired, viewers naturally want to know what was left on the cutting room floor. What conversations never made television? What happened after the cameras stopped? And were there moments that completely changed the way certain storylines looked? Those questions alone could keep the Bravo audience talking for months. But the most dramatic part of the alleged statement came at the end. According to the circulating story, Kyle supposedly warned that if anyone attempted to stop her project or challenge her publicly, she could release additional footage from the reunion. That alleged warning instantly transformed the situation from a simple reality TV departure into a potential battle over control, reputation, and private material. And that's why fans are watching every move. If Kyle stays silent, speculation will continue. If she speaks, every sentence will be analyzed. And if she actually releases new footage, the entire conversation could change overnight. Meanwhile, the other people at the center of the controversy have reportedly remained relatively quiet, which has only encouraged more speculation. Fans are watching Mauricio. They're watching Dorit. They're watching PK. And perhaps most importantly, they're watching Bravo. Because eventually somebody may have to respond to the growing questions. Was the storyline handled fairly? Were cast members encouraged to confront one another? Did producers know about major developments before viewers did? And how much of what audiences saw was spontaneous versus carefully shaped for television? Those are legitimate questions about reality television in general. But until actual evidence emerges, viewers should be careful about treating online claims as confirmed facts. The internet has a habit of turning speculation into certainty within hours. A rumor becomes a headline. The headline becomes a video. The video becomes a trending topic. And suddenly thousands of people are discussing something that nobody has actually established. That's exactly why this story needs to be watched closely. Because there are really two separate stories developing. One is the dramatic version spreading across social media. The other is whatever Kyle, Bravo, and the people involved can actually substantiate. And those two stories may eventually look very different. Still, the possibility of Kyle leaving after such a long run would be significant. 14 seasons is not simply a television appearance. It's a major chapter of someone's life. Kyle has spent years allowing audiences to watch her highs and lows in extraordinary detail. So if she truly decides that the cameras have taken enough, walking away could represent something much bigger than a cast change. It could represent her taking control of the one thing reality television has always taken from its stars: the final edit. And now the audience gets to decide what happens next. Do you think Kyle should leave the show permanently? Or should she stay and finally confront every allegation directly on camera? Do you believe reality TV producers sometimes push personal conflicts too far in the pursuit of ratings? And if Kyle really has unreleased footage, should she put everything out or protect the private moments that were never meant for public consumption? Drop your opinion in the comments. Team Kyle or Team Bravo? Tell me exactly where you stand. And if this story develops further, the next chapter could be even bigger than the reunion itself. Because if Kyle really has something waiting behind the scenes, the question isn't whether people will watch. They absolutely will. The real question is what happens when the cameras finally stop and the person holding the footage decides to press play?